This is WPTV, William Patterson Television.
Welcome back to the desk. It's an exciting time in football as we're seeing a lot of changes in teams' rosters and coaching staffs. Here with me is Phritz Napoleon, Andy Gavin, Andrew Ballistreri, and Trent Troller. As you know, with the end of the regular season, we saw a few, ends of head coaching jobs in the NFL. Every single position has now been filled, and Trent, I want to start with you. Which new head coach do you think is going to have the biggest impact on their team, on their new team?
I mean, this guy's probably been the biggest name in this entire coaching cycle, but Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers is going to be a big deal. You put him on a team who's really had no identity lately. Put a big personality like him on it, they're going to go somewhere with him.
Yeah, I mean, even last offseason, there were some big names. I think the Broncos interviewed him a couple times. Ultimately didn't come to fruition. Now he's in their division, probably going to wreak havoc on them. Andy, going over to you, which new head coach do you think is going to make the biggest impact?
I'm going to say Dan Quinn with the
Why?
Commanders. Okay. I mean, Dan Quinn's tenure with the Falcons will forever be remembered by the 28-3 lead he lost. But he took a 28th ranked defense in 2020 for the Dallas Cowboys, brought them to the 6th ranked defense. He took Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs all-pro, and the Cowboys were 5th this year in points allowed.
No, I actually do agree with that. I think Dan Quinn is he's a good culture guy, I think.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
I mean,
I despise him.
Well, just for leaving and in
No,
your
for
division?
the Packers game.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. But
I think he is, though. It's just, can he develop an offense the right way there?
Well, it's not really his
He's-
responsibility.
Yeah.
Regardless, he's still the head coach. It's a matter of they have the second overall pick. He's going to need a quarterback to develop. He's a very defensively heavy head coach. Is he going to be able to do that? Because in his time with Atlanta, he had Matt Ryan the whole time. So he never had that situation to deal with. So that's going to be the ultimate question is, can he help develop
If you're a football head coach and you're in the NFL, I think you can be able to develop a quarterback.
It's not necessarily true.
Robert Saleh.
You got a point there. But
Don't let's make this a Jets thing.
no, trust me. Andrew, moving over to you, what about which head coach do you think is going to make the biggest impact?
I got to go with Antonio Pierce of the Las Vegas Raiders. It was a great hire for him. Came in as the interim head coach. He's a Super Bowl winning, he's a Super Bowl champion as a player.
Who do you win that with?
Don't worry about it. Either way, it was a great hire for them. He's already loved in the locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, even Max Crosby came out publicly and said that if they did not hire him, he's requesting a trade. So that should tell you everything you need to know about him. He had a practice squad team in this last year, and he still went 5-4 with them down the stretch. And, he beat the Chargers, he beat the Chiefs, and, of course, he beat the Broncos.
Yeah, it's just a never-ending streak of the Raiders
sorry.
beating my Broncos. It's all right. I mean, Antonio Pierce, though, I am kind of scared to see
I see
that.
the tide turning
Hopefully.
one day.
Let's ride.
Let's ride.
All right, Fritz, close us out for this one. Which head coach do you think is going to make the biggest impact?
Yeah, definitely have my eye on Raheem Morris down in Atlanta. Look, I don't know what was Arthur Smith's deal, but there's no way that he had that much young talent and didn't know how to use it. 3 straight 7-10 seasons, but look, they have a plethora of young talent. You have Bijan Robinson. You have Drake London, Kyle Pitts on that defensive side of the ball. AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates. I really think that a fresh new face in that locker room can really get those young guys going. I really think it's going to be an exciting season for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I really love his offensive coordinator hire and Zach Robinson from the Rams. I think he's going to get the best out of the weapons down there.
Yeah, definitely need a quarterback, but I think pick 8 can fix that, even if it's through the draft or through a trade. So we'll see what they do with that.
Yeah, a lot of potential moves for the Falcons. But, not only do coaches move around in the offseason, but the players do as well. Sometimes it's through free agency, other times it's trades, and, occasional big-name cuts. Andy Gavin, which player do you think we'll see leave their team this offseason?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say Saquon Barkley, and we take a look here at his stats throughout his career with the New York Giants. I mean, he's been here since 2018. He has 74 games played, lost pretty much 2019 with the injury. He had almost close to 5,000 rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. He had over 35 yards per carry. He's about 4.5, and that's pretty good. You don't even have him out of the backfield as a receiver in the slot, and they put him out wide. I mean, we shouldn't have tagged him last year. We should have let him walk. I don't believe in paying running backs. Running backs are a premium, and their shelf life are 4 or 5 years to be good. Running backs you can get anywhere. But, I mean, he's going to walk. It's going to hurt the Giants, but it's better off.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries have obviously been a big factor in, the decisions to franchise tag him and potentially let him walk this offseason. But, Trent, going to move over to you. Which player do you think we'll see leave?
Honestly, I think it's time for Joey Bosa to depart from the Chargers. I mean, he had that big contract extension in 2020, and in his career, he played 93 games with them. Got a lot of sacks with 67 in his total career, 82 tackles for a loss, 15 forced fumbles. Those are great numbers for any defensive player's career, but frankly, he's had so many injuries the past few years. I don't think he's at that point where he can be that premier edge rusher anymore for a team. So I think he's likely to be traded for draft picks and become a really important supporting piece for any edge rushing core in the league.
Yeah, you know, a team that I find interesting in that conversation to get him is the San Francisco 49ers, who are in the Super Bowl. I mean, teaming him up with his brother, it's something that they've always wanted to do. Yeah, trust me, I don't want to say it. I'm sick of the 49ers. But
it'd be fun.
It is an interesting thing
nightmares.
that could happen. It would be bad for the NFC, I will say. Fritz, moving over to you, which player do you think we're going to see leave their current team to move on to maybe greener pastures?
I think you're going to like this answer, but Russell Wilson.
Hallelujah.
Denver Broncos. Take a look at his stats through his tenure with this team right now. So he's played over 30 games with them with passing yards, 6,594 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, but 19 interceptions. Look, I definitely think that, last year wasn't all his fault, but, with Sean Payton coming in, I think that he just wants a clean slate.
Yeah.
I don't think that Russell Wilson was the quarterback that he wanted at all, even with the statements that he made in the previous season with him coming in. So even him getting benched as well at the end of the year. So I think that they both just need a clean slate. Sean Payton wants his hand-picked quarterback so he can have his tenure. And Russ just wants to go to a place where he can cook. So we'll see if, he can get back in that kitchen. We'll see if the spatula is still working or if it's time for him to go on to better things in his career.
I mean, look, I wish him nothing but the best, but I just think his best days are over. And,
Yeah.
I would like my Broncos to move on. I do think those stats are a bit misleading with the touchdowns and interceptions. 7.5 average depth of target this year, not great. But Bally, close out for this one. Who do you think is going to see we're going to see leave?
I'm going to go with Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears. I think it's his time to finally move on. And the Bears are in a very interesting spot this offseason as we take a look at his stats. In 40 games played, with the passing yards thrown over 6,600 with 40 passing touchdowns. And the rushing yards is what really tells the story. Over 2,000 rushing yards. And I really think that Fields has been overlooked in his career quite often. And, with the Bears owning the number one pick, you have to make a decision. Do you want to pair him with a guy like Marvin Harrison, or do you want to trade Justin Fields and, get a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May? You don't know where they want to go. And there's a ton of teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks. He just mentioned the Broncos. I could also see the Saints, maybe the Vikings if Kirk moves on. The Falcons at 8, they're going to lose out on Daniels, Williams, and May, most likely. So, even if, the Bears do take quarterback, I could see maybe the Giants trade for Justin Fields because at 6, they're not going to get one of the guys they want.
No, probably not. I mean, obviously they're regretting that Daniel Jones contract, but I don't know. I mean, Justin Fields, he hasn't shown me too much as a passer where I'm kind of weary about trading for him. I wouldn't give up a boatload of
No, you're not
picks for
giving
him.
up a lot on him.
Yeah, I mean, but his value is high after the season.
Yeah.
He did impress me a little bit. But moving on, the NFL is a huge organization with thousands of players who, have once been a part of it and many others who still are. And, guys, with that many players, a lot of exceptional ones get lost in all the commotion. Andrew Ballistreri, going to you, who is a player that you think deserves more credit than he got this season?
It's got to be Christian Kirk of the Jaguars. The receiver quietly had an amazing season this year. In just 12 games, because he got injured back in December, he had nearly 800 yards. And, he had he had 9 touchdowns, and he was on pace for over 1,200 yards this season, 57 catches. He's been underrated for, a little while now, and he's finally getting his flowers, I think, that he deserves. And, he's going to be a free agent next year, I think, after if he...
3-year contract.
If he opts out of his contract. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how lackluster that offense became without him in it. Calvin Ridley was inconsistent, and besides Evan Ingram, didn't have a lot of weapons to give the ball to. Fritz, moving over to you, who is a player that you think deserves a little more recognition?
Going to go with James Cook from the Buffalo Bills. I think he was a primary reason and primary responsibility for that surge that led them to go into the playoffs. Look, one of my gripes with the Bills last year was they had no rushing attack. They had no rushing threat at all, and he helped alleviate with that. 1,122 yards, only 2 touchdowns, but when you're playing with Josh Allen, once you get to the red zone, it's his ballgame, But really alleviating that stress from Josh Allen so he doesn't have to pass every single time, really gave them a nice 1-2 punch with that running attack. So So I really think that his progression this year allowed them to get how far they did in the AFC playoff picture. We'll see if he can continue those strides next season.
Yeah, I mean, probably going to be better than his brother at this point, the way he's looking.
I don't want to talk about that.
That's not even mentioning him as a receiver, the value he adds there. James Cook is really, really good in that aspect. Trent, moving on to you, who's a player that you think deserves more recognition?
I mean, I kind of feel like he got the recognition he deserves this week, but I do still want to say Gardner Minshew, the backup quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You expect Anthony Richardson to be their guy the full season. Very early onto the season, he goes out, and Minshew still pushes the team to a borderline playoff team. The receiver catches the ball at that last play in the Houston game. They're in the playoffs instead. So that just shows how much Minshew's done, and I honestly think his recent Pro Bowl nod as a backup is, quite frankly, very deserved.
I mean, yeah, it's nice to see him get recognition. He's not great, but he's serviceable.
He's a backup for a reason.
Of course.
But, like, this was the year of the backup quarterback. I
It really
think we
was.
should really give him a lot of credit for it because, quite frankly, he did great for where he was put.
No, I agree 100%. Minshew was able to lead that Colts team to a decent record, almost making the playoffs, win or go home game that they lose against Houston. But Andy, closing it out with you, who's a player that you think deserves more recognition?
I'm going to say Kyle Juszczyk, and yes, he gets recognition, but fullbacks are basically non-existent at this point. They're like an animal that's gone extinct. No offense uses them, but Kyle Shanahan uses him. He can be a down lineman. He can be a running back, your third down back. He can be a fullback. And, blocking in front of Christian McCaffrey, that helps McCaffrey a lot. Oh, yeah. And they also put him in the slot. They'll put him out wide, and he's reliable. He can catch, and he's very healthy. He's never really gotten hurt. And he was really good at protecting Brock Purdy and protecting that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was good in Baltimore, right? But then he goes to the Niners, and Kyle Shanahan finds a way to use him more creatively, and he really just explodes into the absolute, objectively, the best fullback in the NFL.
I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Does everything.
The last of a dying breed, unfortunately. But, just want to say, for the final question, for the first episode of this semester, NFL honors are coming up, and recently the nominations have been announced. Fritz, starting with you, out of the 5 nominees for MVP, who do you think deserves it the most?
Yeah, one player I definitely want to shine a light on is Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens. Look, even though his playoffs ended in a disappointing loss to the Chiefs, he still had an amazing regular season. 3,678 yards on the season, 24 touchdowns, 102.7 passer rating, and 821 rushing yards. Look, one thing that he definitely improved on this year is his passing. Even when Mark Andrews went down, he was still able to distribute the ball out, getting guys like Likely involved. We saw an emergence from Zay Flowers this year. So, definitely not the ending that we wanted to see with him going down to the Chiefs' first home game, But we'll see if next year he can, continue the strides and finally get over that hump and chase that Super Bowl that he so desperately wants.
Yeah, watching Lamar for a while, I've always known how good of a pocket passer he was, but he really showed it to everyone this year, and it was really impressive just to see him really take that stride, that next step. Todd Monken helped him a lot, unfortunately not in that game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But that's a story. That's a story for another day. Andrew Ballistreri, who do you think takes home MVP?
Give me the man with the star on the side of his helmet, Mr. Dak Prescott. And listen, I get it. The Cowboys suck. We lost in the playoffs once again. Dak is trash according to all of you that sit here. But I got to build my guy's MVP case. Take a look at the stats. He was the best quarterback this year. 4,516 passing yards, 36 passing touchdowns, led the league, 9 interceptions thrown. He got those numbers down, and a 72.7 QB rating, just the second best in the league. He's top 5 in just about every single stat. Most of them he's top 3 in. And listen, this guy threw the most touchdowns, only had 9 picks. He kept his promise like he said he was going to do. Second in QBR, second in passer rating, 6 in rushing yards. Added quite a few rushing touchdowns to his arsenal too this year. And Lamar was good this season, but if Lamar Jackson wins every MVP, it'll be the worst MVP stat-wise for a quarterback ever that we've ever seen, and it'll be Mickey Mouse. If Dak Prescott won the MVP, everybody else would call it Mickey Mouse because he wears a star on the side of his helmet. I want to keep that same agenda for Lamar Jackson when he wins.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And I said after last year's, I felt like that was kind of just an outlier year for Dak. He's very careful with the ball. He's not really a guy who's going to throw a lot of interceptions. And we saw it this year, got those numbers down, and he looked great. Unfortunately, the Cowboys get bounced in the wild card, but you're a consistent playoff team. They could be worse. Trust me.
Trust me.
I guess.
Trust them. But Andy, moving on to you, who do you think is MVP?
I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey. The MVP is most valuable player, not most valuable quarterback. And that's what it seems like it's been for the last 15, 10 years. And you look at Christian McCaffrey and you look at his stats here for this year, he had 1,459 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. He had 564 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. And you know what? Brock Purdy is a game manager. Brock Purdy has Brandon Ayuk, he has Deebo Samuel, he has Christian McCaffrey, he has a great offensive line. You have Trent Williams, you have...
Don't forget about George Kittle, of course. So.
George Kittle. He has every single weapon a quarterback could imagine. And yes, don't get me wrong, Brock Purdy's the top 10 quarterback in the league. But Christian McCaffrey...
Oh, gosh.
Low end.
Low end.
Yeah. But Christian McCaffrey makes him go above and beyond. Ayuk makes him go above and beyond. They have like 5 all-pro receivers, tight end, whatever you want to say. And yes, Brock Purdy's in a great situation. He's a game manager at the end of the day. This is Christian McCaffrey.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of unfair to call Purdy a game manager at this point. He's
proven himself.
He's got some arm talent.
He has arm talent. He
is in the NFL.
I like some things. He throws 3 straight balls over the receiver's head. Then he'll throw a check down and they'll take it 40 yards. I'm still talking. Thank you. I'm still talking.
No.
Time.
You're
Your
next.
Argument
You're
for
next.
MVP
is
that Purdy is carried by everyone else, and that's your argument for why Christian McCaffrey deserves the MVP. You didn't even talk about why McCaffrey deserves it.
Why he deserves it? He's the best running back in the league. He led the league in yards. He had 22
Somebody's
total
got to get
touchdowns.
him the football, and you
It's
listed all
handing the
these
ball
other
off.
pieces.
You hand the ball off.
Receptions. He still throws the football.
Dude, he ran for almost 1,500
and
yards.
on top of it, you're saying
hand the
that
ball off.
as if McCaffrey is the only piece on that offense. You list how many other names. So with that regard, would Ayuk be worthy of it? Would, say, Deebo be worthy of it? Kittle?
Oh, God.
All these different pieces on this team.
Okay, so if we're
You
going to
say
go back,
one
Trent Williams
specific
pass
run
blocks and run blocks.
Well,
that
in
dude
my
is
opinion,
insane,
yes, he
man.
should.
Give him the
Best left
MVP.
tackle
I
in the
feel like
league.
most offensive linemen pass and run ball.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, many positions do many different things, but no one is as good as Christian McCaffrey as a running back.
Well, I mean,
he is the best running back in the league. Is he not?
No, I'm not saying he's not.
Exactly.
But
I don't think I've ever seen 2 people both lose an argument at the same time.
Yeah, it didn't
Hey,
go anywhere.
I'm a Jets fan. I know how to lose.
this
like
is
that.
true. But Trent, I mean, I feel like after that, I know who you're gonna pick.
I mean, yeah, Brock Purdy.
Yeah. So
People always say it's like, oh, we love a good underdog story, and then you see one unfold right in front of you, and then you complain, oh, he's so overrated. I mean,
No one said overrated.
He's not developing. He's there. You know, over 4,000 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a QB rating of 72.7.
it's actually tied with Dak Prescott for number 1.
Exactly. It's almost as if people are going to say Dak Prescott's deserving of it, Lamar Jackson, Purdy's in that conversation, because regardless of the good talent around him, you still need a good quarterback to improve them, to get them where they need to be. Sure, Purdy's not the best quarterback of all time. I'm not going to say that, obviously. I mean, on the same team, their history quarterback, Joe Montana's, the best. But the point being is that you need a quarterback to develop them. And Purdy is there as a team's leader. If you're just going to say he's a system quarterback, yeah, that's every single quarterback. They have an offense built around them for a reason. That's literally every single quarterback. Saying they're a game manager, that's every single quarterback. Yeah, as it turns out, the conductor of a train needs to conduct the train.
a solid analogy.
You take yards after catch and subtract that by his yards. Dude, he'd have
Still has a lot of passing yards.
Dude, he'd have like 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to.
You have Deebo, Ayuk, you throw screens and checkdowns, and they take it
but
50 yards for you.
Apply that
You're
to
a great
literally
quarterback.
any other quarterback, and you could make the same argument.
No, not really. If you look at the receiving group, I hate Mahomes. You look at Mahomes and how far he targets downfield, his average depth is over like 14 yards.
There's no way that's true.
That's not true.
No, it's like 13.2.
I mean, Brock Purdy's is
just saying things
8.4.
now.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
It's probably
Look,
difference.
Dan Orlovsky went on this whole
Mahomes
rant
on-
where he
Mahomes
listed
is
off
in
all
the
the
finals.
things he led in. Brock Purdy was pretty up there with a lot of the statistical.
Yeah, it's
think-
almost
I
like
think Dak,
Mr.
though.
Relevant is a good quarterback.
Look, I've turned around on Brock Purdy. I think he is. I think he's a great quarterback, low end, top 10.
You know, in
But-
a weak year for quarterback play, why not?
Yeah, but no, don't forget to follow us at SportsDeskWP for updates and more. Thank you to all the cast and crew, and a big shout out to our studio manager, Al Clarke. From Studio B in Hamilton Hall, and for everyone here at the desk, I'm Marc Brandt. Join us next time here on WPTV.